It's the most wonderful time of the year, college football bowl season, baby. And there are 42 bowl and playoff games to keep us entertained for almost 3.5 weeks. Starting with Toledo versus Middle Tennessee State and going through the national championship on Monday, January 10th, pick your favorite WagerTalk or Sports Memo handicapper and get every college football bowl game day release, including any 5% best bets normally priced at $35 for the low price of $149. As an added bonus, make sure to download the free WagerTalk College Football Bowl Guide by going to wt.buzz/rm. From everyone at WagerTalk and Sports Memo, good luck this college football bowl season.
Welcome into the best damn college football show out there. At least 2/3 of it. We got Adam Trigger stepping in for Robbie Vino, and we are breaking down 4 bowl games on December 18th. So if you're looking to bet the Saturday college football bowls, you clicked on the right link. First up here, Adam Trigger. Follow him on Twitter at TopFlightSI. Adam, welcome in, man. How you feeling?
Thanks, Drew. I feel great. I can't wait for college football to get going again. I finally hit my stride in college football toward the end of the season. I finished 9-3, hit both my 5% plays during that span. So we're ahead on the year. Bowls have been historically good for me, so I hope the trend continues this year. And yeah, I can't wait. Friday we kick off, and tons of games this weekend, so it's exciting. Can't wait.
Arguably the best time of year to be a sports bettor. And guys, last, certainly not least, although the reason we are starting 33 minutes late, Ralph Michaels, welcome in. How you feeling today, man?
We are not starting 33 minutes late. We're starting 3 minutes late. But, I do want to mention, guys, if you have not downloaded the free WagerTalk Bowl Guide, please do so. Loaded information. Couple things I want to point out there. We do a stat compare year to date with strength of schedule. More importantly, though, 2 things that I look at bowls. I look at away neutral stats only, so we deduct all the home games, and I have stats for winning FBS teams only. So it gives you a great analysis of how to look at teams in that situation. I do want to mention as well, number 1 at WagerTalk in bowls over the last 4 years, hitting 69%. The bowl packages are a great deal at $149, but as the number 1 capper, I have a bowl special. The code BOWL50, Bowl50, you'll get $50 off all of my bowls for just $99. I have a 5% up now for just $2 if you go to my page, and I loaded bowl plays number 2, 3, and 4 already. You'll get those all. So at least get the 5% play for $2, but take advantage of my bowl package for just $99.
Let's kick it off here, guys. 3:30 on Saturday, the Independence Bowl, Shreveport, Louisiana. We get UAB and BYU, Adam. 3:30 kick here, 55 being the total. BYU -6 in the hook, -7, depending where you're shopping, as the favorite. They do got Hall healthy at quarterback, I believe, here. Bill Clark, the head coach for UAB, always a solid bet, but BYU's been pretty decent in bowls. What are you thinking here, UAB and BYU on Saturday, Adam?
Yeah, well, Drew, you nailed it with Bill Clark. He's a coach that I've always really enjoyed, really liked, really looked to back. UAB veteran team, awesome defense. So, and I'll just tell you with the bowls, I typically try to start with the underdog and make a case for them. Is how I've had success sort of handicapping bowls over the years. And I want to make a case here for UAB, but I do have some concerns. The first being, is this UAB defense up to the task for BYU's offense, which is obviously great, and they've done it against a pretty impressive schedule. BYU beat some really good teams this year, whereas UAB, they played Georgia and they didn't really play anyone else, and they really weren't that impressive against Georgia, which is a concern. Another concern for me on the UAB side is they get penalized a ton, and they find ways to beat themselves, and that's a little bit concerning. BYU typically shows up for the bowl game. You mentioned it; they've had a pretty good run of bowl games. Last year Zach Wilson didn't need to play, right? He was going to be a top draft pick in the NFL, but he did, and They pounded UCF, and I do feel like BYU typically takes these games seriously. So for this one, the numbers come down a little bit. It looks like it's UAB +7 right now. With extra time to prepare, I do think UAB's defense is really good. I think they can hang in this game. Haven't got to the window with it yet because I am a little bit concerned that UAB makes just one too many mistake to beat themselves here. But the way I lean right now is UAB plus the points.
Yeah, Adam, good point there last year against UCF. One thing I noticed, I was at that game, Adam, and I actually think BYU has a certain advantage. I'm not so sure that the market's kind of really in tune to it. That 2 years each player has that they're older than their opposition, just walking around there next to the sidelines, you could tell. I mean, they're bigger dudes. When you're 23, you're a little bit stronger than when you're 21. The same from 21 to 19. And I don't know. BYU is a team I definitely look to bet on, but going up against UAB and Bill Clark, the extra time to prepare, I do think they have the head coaching advantage here. It's kind of a tricky handicap. Ralph, getting you in here, what do you think in UAB and BYU?
Well, Drew, both of you guys bring up a good point about BYU. With everyone having gone on a mission, they are older. But, let's remember, some of these UAB kids are years older, too, because they spent 2 years without a football program and brought it back. And those kids just sat on the team, practiced, and worked out. So that dynamic doesn't always work here. Adam talked about bringing in the dogs in bowls, looking for that first. I will say this, going back all the days, and I'm sure a lot of you know, I used to work at North Coast Sports and do the Power Sweep newsletter, and the Power Sweep Double Bowl Issue Guide was one of the most popular publications we did. And we did a lot of statistical breakdown. And dogs do cover to the tune of almost 60% pre-December 31st games. When you start getting all the Power 5 teams playing in those meaningful bowls, the favorites actually do better later in those bowls. So that's a very generic breakdown, but it is a good basis if you're new to handicapping. Number two, I want to mention, there is so much you have to throw out from the regular season when you get to bowl games. Regular season, early on in the year, everybody has motivation. That's not the case when you get to bowls. There are clearly teams more excited to be in certain bowl games. There are certain teams that are deflated to be where they are. There are certain teams to be deflated in the position they are. I think BYU's one of them. Yes, they've done well in bowls. But I'll tell you what, after knocking off Arizona, Utah, Arizona State, USF, and Utah State, you are thinking you are going to be a top group of 5 team. Well, back-to-back losses to Boise and Baylor are part of the reason you're not. You're now going to Shreveport, Louisiana, which gives UAB a significant edge as far as fans go. You look at BYU's last few bowl games, Boca Raton, Hawaii, the Idaho Potato, which was close, the Poinsettia, and the Las Vegas. Destinations where their fans can go to. No disrespect to those in Shreveport. It's not a destination to go to your bowl. And then I look at BYU, and again, I mentioned motivation. BYU is without 5 starters. 2 linebackers, a cornerback, and a center, and a wide receiver have opted out in this game. That's certainly a position that I will look to fade coming in. When you're a team and you have a cohesive team and all of a sudden 5 of your guys aren't playing, that's a negative to me moving in and moving forward. I do like the dog here.
All right, looking towards the dog and the Blazers. You can get them as high as +7, guys. Check out the WagerTalk odds screen. It's either 6.5 or 7, so make sure you're shopping at a book to get the correct number for which side you're liking there. We got next game up here, December 18th, 5:45 p.m. Eastern time. The Lending Tree Bowl, Ralph Michaels, Ladd Peoples Stadium in Mobile, Alabama. We're seeing Eastern Michigan and Liberty. Liberty -9 in the hook, depending where we're shopping. 58.5 being the total. What are you liking here? Eastern Michigan and Liberty, Ralph?
Well, you look at Liberty, you look at what Hughes Freeze has done, and you look at statistical profiles in this game, and Liberty should probably be a 17-point favorite. When you talk Liberty, they are +68 yards per game on the season. Eastern Michigan got outgained by 47 yards. Excuse me, Liberty was plus 67 yards against winning FBS teams. They're plus 113 yards per game year to date. So you have 150 yards per game difference from one team to the second team with a Liberty quarterback that it has NFL potential. So why do I not like Liberty? It's simple. I mean, we're looking at a coach in Creighton for Eastern Michigan who has been dynamic as an underdog. 30 ATS wins, 9 ATS losses. When he's an underdog off a straight-up loss, like he is in this role, he's 19-4-1 against the spread, including 14 straight covers. That's right. Eastern Michigan has covered 14 straight games off a loss when they're an underdog. You look at Liberty, they're another team. You're talking about starting the season 6-1, you lose to ULM, and then what happens down the stretch? You lose to Mississippi, you lose to Louisiana, you lose to Army. When I looked in the database for bowl teams that lost back-to-back games as a favorite, I just mentioned it on Bet On It, it is a 25% play. So Liberty, again, you have a team that's faded down the stretch like they have, lost back-to-back favorites to a season that they thought was going to be dynamic, has not been. Those aren't the kind of teams I want. A motivated Eastern Michigan team that got to a bowl in 16, 18, and 19. While they lost all three of those bowls, they went a perfect 3-0 ATS, did not get to a bowl, completely motivated this year. And again, it's a clear situation for me. Eastern Michigan, the dog side, with me being a very motivated team against Liberty.
Adam, coming to you next, 2 7-5 teams here. Liberty, to Ralph's point, their only cover in the last 6 games. I mean, they're 1-5 ATS their last 6. Their only cover against UMass. They've lost 3 straight up and against the spread. I mean, but you can see why the market kind of betting them. 7.5 up to -9. I mean, Eastern Michigan from the MAC, fading the MAC conference and bowl games has been a money maker of late. These two teams never playing. What are you liking here, Eastern Michigan and Liberty?
So I agree with a lot of what Ralph said. I'll try to expound upon a couple things a little bit. First, if you are just looking at like matchups and numbers here, you're probably going to come up with Liberty. But I think what Ralph was saying earlier, it's important to take all the sort of the intangibles into consideration. You said 2 7-5 teams. 7-5 is kind of a disappointment for Liberty this year. I think a lot more was expected of this team after beating Coastal Carolina last year. And, they were a touchdown favorite in that game. They lost to Syracuse. They were a 33-point favorite when they lost to Louisiana Monroe. And as Ralph mentioned, they really did just sort of fizzle out, and they weren't really competitive, maybe against 3 teams that you maybe don't expect them to beat, but they really weren't competitive against Ole Miss, Louisiana Lafayette, and Army down the stretch. Eastern Michigan is not going to really jump off the page. I would say they have like average talent, but as Ralph mentioned, Creighton's an amazing coach, and they are the least penalized team in the country. And I think that's they're going to be well prepared. And we talk about with the bowls, preparation is like so much of the battle. So I think here, as an underdog with kind of nothing to lose, right? It's up to 9.5. So the masses are clearly expecting Liberty to win. I like Eastern Michigan being a little bit more prepared here, and I think if they just go out and play their game the way they're capable of playing, they could surprise Liberty here. I wouldn't be that shocked if Liberty was just kind of, it's at the end of a season. They lost 3 straight games to close out the year. They probably had bigger aspirations for this season. Now they play Eastern Michigan, which is not a named team at all. I think there's definite value on the dog here. Could be one of the shockers of the first weekend.
Dog barking in Mobile, Alabama. We'll go from Southern Alabama to Southern California for 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific kick here, guys. Pac-12 Mountain West, Adam. We're seeing Oregon State and Utah going at it. SoFi Stadium, Inglewood, California. -7 or -7 in the hook, guys. Another game, need to be checking out that WagerTalk odds screen. Get the best of the number. 68 being the total. Adam, I don't know, man. I like the dog here. Utah State was a great bet down the stretch, winning against San Diego State. We were both on that. You going back to the well here with the Aggies?
I'm not, this is one of the few spots where I really do like a favorite. It's the Jimmy Kimmel Bowl, by the way, Drew, the Jimmy Kimmel LA Bowl. I didn't know if you knew that, but
Wow.
I think I like Oregon State, and I like this Oregon State team. I think they're a little bit underrated in terms of, Utah State. We just saw them get the huge win, right? They come in and blow San Diego State out in the Mountain West Championship game. Whereas Oregon State, that their last game of the year, they really weren't that impressive against Oregon. I think people expected more out of them in that game. Didn't play on championship week, but this is an Oregon State team that led the Pac-12 in rushing. They have some really impressive wins. USC, Utah, and Arizona State, and they beat all three of those teams by more than the margin here. In this scenario, I think that just the matchup alone puts me on the Oregon State side here. Oregon State's offensive line, I have a feeling that they're going to be able to control this matchup. And if Oregon State can run the ball, they could put points up at will here. They are have an elite conversion percentage on third down. Oregon State does, one of the best in the country. So my concern would be getting backdoored, because their defense is a little suspect, and for as good as they are on third down offensively, they're one of the worst in the country in getting off the field on third down. So, so 7 in the hook, that's like one of the prime things that comes into play there if you're talking about getting backdoored. But just from a matchup perspective, I'm leaning pretty heavily to the Oregon State side here.
Okay, looking towards the Power 5 team here in this matchup. Ralph, one stat I looked at that pointed me towards Utah State going up against Trig here is Oregon State. Yes, I agree with all of his points. Good up front, but the fact is they've lost straight up and against the spread their last 4 road games. I like to look at that stat going into bowl games, and Utah State 7-0 on the road this season, 10-3 in the Mountain West Conference champions. They've won 7 of their last 8 games, both straight up and against the spread. Their only loss at Wyoming, and that was after they locked up their side of the division there. I don't know. Utah State's been a great bet for me. So in terms of betting on or against the Aggies, I'm kind of playing with free money here. It's Utah State or pass, but how are you feeling about this one?
Well, is Oregon State excited to be here? Well, yes. At the beginning of the year, they would be excited to be playing in an NFL stadium on Sunday night on ABC TV against anybody. Are they happy being here after they started the season 6-2 and then back-to-back losses at California, Colorado? That's a no. I mean, those are disappointing. When you look at the road stats from the WagerTalk Bowl Guide, as you brought up, Drew, Oregon State played 6 teams away from home. They were minus 21 yards per game. Utah State played 7 games away from home, plus 132 yards per game. That's 150 yards per game difference. Now, I understand the strength of schedule is night and day, but how about this? Since October of 2019, Oregon State has won 1 road game. That's it. In 2.5 years, they've won 1 road game, and that was this year at USC. Now, that was an impressive win. It was early in the year, but what did they do? They were a 4-point favorite at Washington State. They lose by a touchdown outright. You're a 1.5-point favorite at California. You lose by 14 points outright. You're a 12-point favorite at Colorado, and you lose that game outright. Conference champions like Utah State that play in bowls have gone 75, 56, and 3, 57% against the spread. So winning your conference is an important situation for a team like Utah State. And when I look, this is from Mark Lawrence's playbook. This week, it just came out. Mark has great situational and technical plays and points out a lot of them. How about this stat? I'm not saying this wow number is relative to this bowl game, But how this could happen when a Pac-12 team is playing in a bowl game and they are off, when the Pac-12 team is playing off a bowl game and they are off a loss, they are 1-21 against the spread. That's just crazy. I mean, you look at teams and say, how can they play that bad in the bowl game? And earlier, I just tweeted out, if you guys follow me at CalSportsLV, I'm trying to pull it up. The Pac-12 as a favorite since 2017 has gone 5-6 against the spread. The Pac-12 as a favorite in bowl games has gone 4-10. So Pac-12 bowl teams since 2017 have gone 9-16 against the spread. Again, yes, you're a head coach, and you could say we're playing in an NFL stadium in LA on Sunday night, the only bowl game being played on ABC, but give me the dog again.
Going with the dog and the Aggies. Okay, I like it, Ralph. We got one game left here, guys. Ralph, coming back to you for the nightcap on Saturday. Marshall Thundering Herd and the Louisiana Raging Cajuns playing in the New Orleans Bowl, Caesars Superdome there in New Orleans, Louisiana. Not a long trip for Lafayette. Marshall Thundering Herd fans likely taking the trip there to the Big Easy. We're seeing 55.5 being the total. Louisiana -5 or -5 in the hook. They've won 12 straight here, Ralph. They're 0-4 against the spread their last 4 bowl games, however, and the change at the coaching with them taking the Florida Gators head coaching job there, Billy Napier, that is. What are you liking here, Marshall and Louisiana, Ralph?
Well, that's one of the situations. Can a bowl game be a letdown? Well, sure it can. Let's remember that we have Billy Napier, who's been here for 4 years. So he recruited all of these kids, starting with freshmen. What happened 4 years ago? They went to the Sun Belt Conference title. They went to App State. They lost. What happened 3 years ago? They went to the conference title. They went to App State and lost. I was absolutely on them last week because they finally got the conference game at home. It was a complete circle the wagons game. Third time you're playing this team in the conference championship. There was no conference championship the COVID year, but it would have been the same 2 teams. So you finally beat this team. Your head coach stayed to coach the game instead of moving on to Florida. That's how big of a deal that game was. So now you did it. You were Sun Belt champions. Your coach now leaves. Not only does he leaves with 5 other assistant coaches. So your coaching staff is very depleted from what you have. Now, you do have a new head coach who was the assistant DC who now is taking over. So there's some stability, and it's not just an interim head coach. You look at yards per game, and ULL has the edge, plus 120 yards per game versus plus 83, with the strength of schedules almost identical, 117th and 119th. So they both played strength of schedule. But Marshall is actually plus 1.34 yards per game, while ULL is 0.9. That's almost a 0.4 yards per game, close to a half a yard game difference. That's a mammoth Marshall edge. But can you trust Marshall? We know that ULL, since their opening loss at Texas, has won every game. Marshall lost 3 separate games as a favorite this year. And I do like ULL's defense. I see what they attacked, what they did at Liberty against an NFL-type quarterback, holding Liberty to 293 yards and getting 7 sacks. The sack edge, to me, huge advantage for ULL. I do want to point out for Marshall that their quarterback was injured in their final regular season game against Western Kentucky. He is good to go. The coach said he's practicing, no issues with him. So if there's any question with that, but ULL concerns me. It's not going to be strong enough to make a card because they are off that big win against App State. I did mention in the previous game, though, conference champions have done well. I have a light lean to ULL. Not going to make my card. The lightest of the 4 opinions I've given out today.
And Ralph, good breakdown. You did mention the DC taking the job. He's he's going to be the head coach next year too, right?
They have already announced him. So yes, he's not an interim. He's officially the head coach taking over for this game. And that, I said, adds a little more stability versus versus having an interim for the game. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. The kids know if, coming back next year, hey, he's still the head guy in charge. So kind of need to impress him. Hey, winning 12 straight here. Adam, interested in your opinion. Louisiana Lafayette, kind of a tricky handicap change at the head coach. But Marshall, one thing I've actually noticed with Marshall, I was looking at my notes here, their defensive front and linebackers are pretty good. I think that they'll be able to hold their own against that Louisiana kind of offensive line there. And also the Raging Cajuns, for whatever reason, it seems like against good teams, they play up, and against, not so good teams, they kind of play to their competition. Something to kind of keep in mind here. What do you like in the Big Easy Saturday night?
Yeah. So, great points by both of you. And again, Drew, that's absolutely, I think, the case with Marshall. And what I've noticed with Marshall is, with Lafayette, what I've noticed with Lafayette is you can beat them if you can kind of hit the big play. And I think Marshall does that particularly well, especially if you can hit the big play in the Lafayette secondary. That's where you can score on this team. I think this comes down to, how much do you trust Marshall? And, the one thing that I keep seeing cited is the turnover issues, but that was pretty much early in the season for Marshall. They really haven't turned the ball over down the stretch like they did early on. So I think they've kind of improved upon that. And Ralph sort of nailed it. This absolutely feels like it could be a letdown game for Lafayette, because the magnitude of that game championship weekend was so big for them, and to get that win, it reminds me a little bit of championship weekend when Oklahoma State beat Oklahoma finally, and then came out, and it was almost like their championship game was kind of a little bit of a letdown. That's kind of how I feel with Lafayette here as a favorite in this spot. So Marshall, if they're going to turn the ball over like crazy, they're going to lose. So that's really, I think, the key for Marshall here. Given the extra time to prepare for this game, I'd like to think that they have a good enough game plan where they can put a couple of big plays together and hit on those big plays and not turn it over, to the point where it's going to lose them the game. Drew, you said it. They're vulnerable defensively, but the one area where they can sort of like make some hay on defense is their pass rush. And the one thing with Lafayette, they're laying a number. And what I've noticed with Lafayette is, let's say they get a lead. Let's say they've got a field goal lead late in the game. They go pretty conservative with the play call. And it's almost like they trust their defense so much and their ability to sort of, make good decisions, for Levi Lewis to make good decisions and run the ball and move the chains, that, this gets to be a 3-4 point game with 8 minutes left. Lafayette gets the ball. Like you might see them just go, first down, and be content with just like running the clock. Or if the drive stalls out, they'll punt. So I'd be like worried less about a team like, let's say Lafayette has that lead, them just sort of like breaking one off and covering the number that way, or basically trying to put more points on the board, because I think they trust their defense and their ability to move the chains and sort of control the clock. So Marshall, but the way I lean here is the dog. I think Marshall has a chance here. I think if they have the right game plan and they can hit on some big plays, they can win. So I haven't got to the window with it yet, but I'm definitely looking at taking the points.
Drew, I want to bring up what one point Adam made about the turnovers. Just look at the quarterback ratios. Grant Wells, 16-12 ratio. Levi Lewis, 19-4 ratio.
Yeah, Levi Lewis has been a beast, Ralph. Hey, any opinion on him? Maybe, I don't know if he'd play quarterback in the NFL, but we just saw Tyler Huntley for Utah make an appearance in the NFL. You think Levi Lewis has any shot at playing in the league?
I'm horrible at those type of this.
Okay.
I understand what a quarterback needs and making that out pass. If you could throw an out pass, 25 yards on a line, you're going to get a shot in the NFL. That's not Lewis, but evaluating college football talent is nothing I ever got into. So I will not say something stupid by just not saying anything at all.
Hey, that works, man. It was just one of those things. It kind of hit my head because watching Tyler Huntley there for the Ravens, it kind of surprised me that he made the roster. But I can remember thinking that at Utah, like he wasn't hitting those 25-yard out routes like you're talking about. But nonetheless, he's made a roster spot there for the Ravens. So guys, we got time for best bets. Final thoughts here. Huge shout out to the chat box, Jonathan, Zach. All you guys, Brad as well, joining us. Eddie saying he got BYU. And you know what, Eddie? I'm with you, man. I think the Cougars are the side to go in the first game we talked about. My most confident play, the best bet here for the show for me is BYU -6.5. Guys, make sure to check out WagerTalk odds screen. Make sure you're getting the best of the number. And if you're not, hey, get a book where you can. So -6 in the hook here. BYU laying it with the Cougars. Talked about it earlier, guys. Just the size difference. I think we'll see it a little bit here. And just talent overall, top to bottom on the roster. BYU went toe-to-toe with some really good teams this year. Conference USA, a little bit down. So, hey, I don't like going up against Bill Clark, but I'm going on BYU -6.5. Also, check out my plays, guys. Got a 5% play going tonight in college basketball. Got the $99 special. You get all of my bowl games and college basketball until the national championship of college football, all for under $100. So check it out, Drew Martin, WagerTalk.com. Adam, throw it over to you, man. Final thoughts for the show, what you got going on at WagerTalk, and if you have a most confident play of the day.
Yeah, so of the plays we spoke about, I like Marshall. I think I'm going to roll with Marshall with the points. I think that there's paths to victory for them, and that with extra time to prepare, that they could really come up with a game plan that is capable of putting some big plays on that Lafayette secondary, which is suspect, and it could keep them in that game. So yeah, Marshall plus the points for me. I've got a 5% play in college football that's up now, one that I absolutely love. And I think you can actually get a slightly better line than I gave it out at. And I still love it just as much. So that's up. I'll be adding others. And any college basketball I have tonight, if I go, I haven't released anything yet, but I'm just going to tweet that out. So follow me on Twitter at TopPlaySI.
Check Adam out a little bit later on the WagerTalk YouTube channel as well. The Hustle podcast, simulcast live on WagerTalk. Kelly in Vegas, Ariel Epstein, myself, and Adam breaking it down there. That's at 6 p.m. Eastern time right here on the WagerTalk YouTube channel. And Ralph, coming to you next. Guys, follow him on Twitter at CalSportsLV. Always putting out good betting information. Ralph, what do you got going on at WagerTalk? Best bet for the show, and any final thoughts out there, man?
Well, for those follow on Twitter, the NBA stat sheet's been hot. And the Gold Sheet college basketball stat sheet started this past Monday. I put it on my Twitter feed every morning. Check that out. And this weekend, 5% college football play, $2. It was $2 on Tuesday. We are keeping it up all week. So jump over now, grab that 5% play for $2, and you'll be glad you did going into Saturday. I'm going to go with Utah State, guys. Again, the way Oregon State has played on the road, the Utah State team, to me, can keep it close. Backdoor always open when you're getting this type of point spread. And the Pac-12, just, they're a conference that, when we look at it from top to bottom and rank them in the Power Fives, they're near that bottom. They get overrated. And I will take the Aggies and the points.
He's Ralph Michaels. We heard from Adam Trigger. I am Drew Martin. Guys, thanks for tuning in. Feel free to reply below on YouTube what you agree with us with, what your best bets are. Always interested in that, guys. So the reply section on the WagerTalk YouTube channel below the video. Please smash that like button. Best of luck with your bets. We'll be back next Wednesday. Come back and join us.
Founded in 1957, the Gold Sheet is the country's longest-running sports betting newsletter. Each week, the Gold Sheet team delivers analysis on NFL and college football games, along with NBA and college basketball matchups. The Gold Sheet maintains in-depth point spread and results logs, giving sports bettors and enthusiasts the insights needed to maximize their wagers. For over 60 years, Gold Sheet readers have received key releases based on power rankings on all teams, and for the first time ever, you can now get these selections exclusively at goldsheet.com, wagertalk.com, and sportsmemo.com.